um,
All
and
right,
all
you're
that good
on.
stuff. All right. So before we go, I'm going to kind of bring back some of the things that I used to do. I don't like doing sit and gets. That's first and foremost. You guys sitting here and me just talking. I kind of want to make this a collaborative, us communicating, us having conversation. And then in that process, things get answered. And then we can talk about those things. But if I just sit and get, I don't know if that
Ooh.
is as powerful as anything else. So what I would like for you guys to do, I'm gonna give you guys some think time. In those think time, I want to give you guys about, maybe a minute and think of two types of questions, what and how. Since we're focusing on the idea of entrepreneurs, moving from that mindset of where we're at now to, I guess where I'm kind of at. I want you to think of like what and how questions, and then we'll ask those, and then we'll collaborate and talk from that as well. So I'll give you guys about a minute. It's gonna feel like forever.
And so we're
You can write
thinking
them
of
down or think them out. Yes, think
what
about
would we
what,
do for like a business?
whatever, what and how that focuses on the idea of entrepreneur, or questions that you guys have, trying to step out in that realm of entrepreneurship. So what and how? I'll give you guys about a minute. So you want to go ahead and start? There we go. So let's start with Mikhail. You go ahead and ask your first question. What would you like to ask? And we can go from there.
Please specify which McKelk.
I know, I was totally ready to
You,
go.
Aaron.
I have like 6 or 7 of them, but
Just ask one.
I think the biggest one is, how do I start?
I think for me, the way I ended up getting started was literally a sense that I kept having over and over. It was a feeling that I had within my gut that I kept searching for years. I've talked about it to many people of like, man, I know I should be doing something else because something was pulling me, whatever that something may be, whatever anybody believes. But I felt like internally, I felt like there was other things for me to do. Um, and so the biggest question we all have is, what is that thing? And I had to sit and I literally reflected, and I kind of started writing down, one, what are the questions that people ask me a lot of? Like, hey, what can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Whatever that is. I know people are asking you guys for questions that are over and over and over, and they start to become repetitive. And then two, I asked myself, what am I stinking good at? And what do I do naturally? And from there, and this took me years. I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight. This took me years. Um, and I finally realized that I've been coaching all my life, teaching some way all my life, and I do strength and conditioning. That's what I do. That's what I know. So how can I make a business out of that? Because I've tried multiple things and it just didn't fit for me. I have another friend that's very entrepreneur like, and he gave me ideas, but it just didn't fit. So I guess how to get started is you need to figure out what you are good at. What are you naturally good at? That's not forced, but it just rolls with you naturally. And then once you get that process, you start seeing where those questions are people asking you. How can you help them with those questions? Because to be an entrepreneur, you're solving problems for other people, or you're enhancing some other things with other people. And so once you figure out those problems, you start creating things to help solve those problems. You'll probably hear my son singing in the background if you didn't hear already.
I love it. You just saw my
What,
daughter too, so it's all good.
what else we got? Emily, what do you got?
Yeah, you know what, I think one of my biggest things right now is, how do I pay for it? Where do I even go to find funding. I've got a bunch of ideas for businesses, but none of them are like, I can just start for free. Like I need more money than than we have available.
Now,
Any thoughts
it,
about that?
it all depends on, I guess there's multiple routes you can go, for profit or nonprofit. The nonprofit one, I'm not going to sit here and say I know a ton of that, but I know one of my really good friends, he does. And that takes work, but you can get a lot of funding for that. But then you're owned by the board, you're owned by a community. Like the nonprofit isn't yours. Like you might be like the leader that started of it, but you're not in charge of it. And so you create a board. And then I guess funding wise, that's a good question. And I'm just like, for me, it was different because I didn't need tons of money to get started. I just needed connections, like a gym. And then going kind of from there with that connection piece. But I think if funding is a thing, start off small. Like small. Like you got to figure out small to build your base. You're gonna have to give it some money, whatever that may be, but I don't think you want to give your life savings to it. Now, I did do that though. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I stopped. I took all my retirement out. I have no retirement. I have none. I said, all right, well, we're gonna take this out. I took all that retirement out from teaching that I taught, plus my work for Pepsi. I took whatever that was, and I started funding the things that I needed to fund. And that's scary because you start that feeling of I don't have any more money, but then this is where it leads into a mindset. You have a choice: either you're gonna sink or you're gonna swim. So figure out a way to pay yourself back. So as you go through this, there's two questions that you can have is instead of saying I can't, ask how can I? That's a big one. How can I? And then you start problem solving the things that you have. So to answer that funding question, looping back to it, you're gonna have to give it some. But I wouldn't give it all. And then find connections that are within your realm and then see if you can almost swap business for business to get the things that you need.
Okay.
So however that may look in your realm, just give them something and then they give you something so you can get what you want at the end of the day.
Okay.
That's a good one. That's a good big piece. That helped me out a ton. So here's an example. My local rec center, I train the kids like summer programs and stuff like that. And I get the gym space basically for free.
That was my question.
That's huge. Like that is huge. Because now everything that I do within that gym is all profit. It's not, there's no really any expenses unless I get shirts. So that's what I do. I said, I'll train because they wanted to pay me. And here's going into payment. They wanted to pay me, let's say $400. We'll go with that. It's crazy. So I would have to train for 5 weeks or whatever the case may be and make $400 for 5 weeks training 30, 40 plus kids. I can make $400 in basically one session.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just said, now $400, that's not counting taxes coming out and Social Security and whatever else. So that $400 is only like maybe $300 to $200 something. So it's really, what is the worth? Like it wasn't financially, it didn't make sense. So because of that, that's when I was like, hey, how about I train? Don't pay me. I would just let me get the gym for free when I need it. So
Emily,
it's a win-win.
would you mind sharing with the group like what would be one of those ideas so we can hear that?
Yeah, I've got a couple nonprofit ideas, but I work for a nonprofit right now and I would love to not do nonprofit. And honestly, a lot of it is because you need to have a board of directors. And like you said, Coach Lane, like I mean, you're in control basically, but not entirely. And it just adds another layer of, it's just kind of a pain.
Yeah. There's a lot of paperwork that goes into it too. A lot of paperwork.
Yep. I've got kind of an idea for so my brother and my sister live on Maui, and kind of a big thing on Maui is, instead of like owning a restaurant, you do like a plate lunch. So, you have basically like one meal that you cook for the day, and then anybody can come. There isn't very much overhead for that. You're making just one meal and anybody can come and just kind of get that. And I think that that would do pretty well where we live, but I would need a facility to do that. And I would need kind of, all those,
What are you
those,
trying to, what is your business?
it would be like a restaurant, except not a full on restaurant. It would
Well,
just,
what,
I mean, not a full menu, or the one I work for now.
but let's think of what is like your go-to meal? What is a dish that you want to make? Because I actually helped somebody, kind of a kid with this. And then it
Okay.
branched out to a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Like a
So,
go, sure. Like making something like jambalaya, like something
so
that, okay.
yeah, I was just gonna say you just use your kitchen. And so what you do is you do pre-orders. You set out pre-orders. You said, hey, on, I don't know, whatever, May 15th, we're gonna have jambalaya. It comes with this, it comes with this, and it comes with this, and it costs us this much. Here's your
Mhm.
pre-order, order that. And so what that does is you already know how much you have to make, but then you take whatever your expenses from that profit and you just make it in your own kitchen. And then they have to pick it up. You can pick a location or they can pick it up from your house. And so
Mhm.
you just set the dish to what you want, what it's going to have, and just set like one item for your menu. And you can do
Mhm.
it almost monthly, with different things. And then after that, you build your base and you build your base and you build your base. And then sooner or later, that base is built. And then that's where you can get a food truck, and use a food
Sure.
truck and stuff like that. Is one of those good ideas to start small. So I guess what I'm saying is, whatever your vision is, think about what you truly need.
Mhm.
What is the purpose of that restaurant? If it's to give that the individuals a feeling, a vibe, how can you create that with what you have? Or is there a person that I don't know, local church, if you go to church, hey, can I borrow your kitchen for a weekend? I'm doing this dish in this order, and excuse me, you do the same thing. Like you just say, I'm having this dish, this location, this price. And if they say, hey, you got to rent it for $200, well, I feel like that's a steal. So I
Yep.
think your idea is there, but I think you're thinking, and I can be wrong. Like I got to have this restaurant, which you don't necessarily need the restaurant. You just want people to taste your food. So if it's people that
Yeah.
just need to taste your food, you need to come up with like a month, like what you do this month, what you do next month, so forth and so forth. And then your name will start getting out, and then you start building it, and then you start going from there. Then we go to the other business side, is creating that idea of an LLC, which is by far the easiest thing you can do. But with that LLC gives you that base to basically write off what you need to write off. My way of seeing it is the government takes money from you. Like all of you guys, all of us with a job, teaching job, look at your check, see how much the government takes from you, and then see how much you truly make, right? One day that hit me in the face. Like, man, I put in all these hours, ton of work, all this stress, whatever it is. And I looked at my check one day, did the math. I was like, man, government takes about 45%. That's a huge amount. And all that much money and time I put in forth effort to only get paid whatever I get paid. And, that's your medical coming out, and this, that, and the other. And after there was a point that hit me like, why am I putting in all this work for my money to be taken away? Um, and so I really had a mind to flip my mind. You create this LLC, you can make the money that you need to make, but you can also write off a lot because the tax code is written for people that have businesses. And so if you learn the tax code and then you learn how to then write off stuff, government can take very little of your money more than anything else. And
Can
to me,
I
that was a big deal.
can I share an idea for Emily that she like mentioned one time, and I don't know if she's
Go
still
for it.
interested. I I've been doing this, Emily. You mentioned, I don't know, a month ago about teaching teachers marketing and then have them use marketing as a lens that they like write their lesson plans or their curriculum through. And I like had my kids do some copywriting and like social media post style writing, and they loved it. And I think a simple thing that would take almost no overhead is some kind of like a online course or training materials like you already do for CLI, but it's a little mini course for teachers to use marketing in their classroom, no matter what you teach. Like I'm a history teacher. I didn't even know what marketing was until a couple months ago. Because you, A, would be good at that, and B, I think it's a phenomenal idea. And then C, like I've been just doing that on my own and it's been really fun. And I think you could totally do that.
Yeah, and I think my thought about and why I haven't really done anything with that is I'm just afraid that any type of consulting, because what we do in the nonprofit that I work in is all consulting. I am fortunate enough that I work in the sales, marketing, and finance part, so I don't have to travel, but travel is kind of a big part of consulting. And I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Like I'm not looking for work for a while.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I've sort of not pursued that. But I do like it would be super fun. I mean, it would, combine my two passions. So that would be really fun. But
I mean, even for your food thing, I mean, I'm assuming you cook for family and stuff like that, right?
yeah. And I'm not a
So
dynamite cook. Honestly, it's just there's a need for it in the town where I live. There's like this town is dead. And so it would just be awesome to have something,
try it. I
to be
mean,
able to
no,
feed.
I think you should just. Another thing is you just got to do it. Like just do
Right.
it. And I understand you 100% how you feel, the fear, the overwhelming. Literally, just do it. Like just try it, and then that didn't work. Let's figure out how we can make this work. But if it's a need for your community, then I think you need to just try it. Like I don't know, sometime in April ham. I don't know. Come up with a fun name,
Yeah.
and then just try it. Just try it. I think
Yeah.
that's just your next step. But what else we got? What other questions?
You better ask Heather next what one of hers is.
What do we got, Heather?
That's the question. What do I got? I am not very good at identifying my own strengths. I can identify things that stress me out. I know that like something that I feel like I'm good at that I enjoy is developing materials for use in the classroom. And so then it's like, oh, well, people tell me you should put all this stuff on Teachers Pay Teachers. And it makes me want to throw up. I don't want to do Teachers Pay Teachers. I don't know why, but I don't know. I guess I don't know how to take, I don't know how to find my strength. You'd think after 40 years of life, I would have an idea, but I do not.
And it's okay. Like that's seriously, this is why I love, I guess, entrepreneurship, because it's literally, this is the journey. Like you truly have to dive into yourself. And sometimes that's uncomfortable. We don't want to, because we've always been given in things that we're supposed to be doing. And this is going to force you to truly think about that and dive into that. Like if people are coming to you for your paid teacher products and your products, well, you don't have to do teacher paid teachers. Just create your own thing, like start a website that has your materials, and then you slowly just got to market it. It's not like it's going to happen overnight. It's actually going to take a while. But if that's kind of where your niche is and what people like about it, don't be afraid to explore that one thing. And then, I mean, charge for that, charge for it. That's what people are doing. Find a way to bring value to those people. Like bring value. If you can bring value to it, that makes a huge thing. And I think teachers need that. They need that value. They need that something that's going to make their job easier. So if you got it, be willing to kind of go out on your own and just see how it goes. You got nothing to lose. But with all of that being said, I think the only way to really get it to going, really get stuff going, is sometimes you got to let go of the crutch that you have. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying, first off, I'm not saying to quit teaching. But since you have teaching, it's that crutch. And so when things don't work out, you're just kind of like, I guess it's just not meant to be. I'll just be a teacher. I've done it many of my years, but I was actually, for me, I was forced out of things to pursue what I needed to do. I was forced out of it because if I was never forced out, I wouldn't see or I would have done things differently because it creates a different thought process. Like if I don't have it, I got to figure out how to survive. So I think that's the biggest thing is if you're tired of whatever you're doing, you got to force yourself out of it or something will force you out of it. So like you had that feeling. She's there, cute. You had that feeling. If it's in your gut, then I think you need to follow it. Now, create a plan though. Like all the stuff that I did, I've had plans. I don't just jump on. I didn't jump on a whim. Like I'm just gonna. No, I planned out the steps of how this is gonna look, and try to make whatever step I had happen. And then in the process, if it grew bigger, smaller, but create steps. So like if you have that feeling, we'll go with your teacher materials. If you know that's the case, you know you don't want to teach, then slowly figure out, all right, what do I need to do? Create a website, YouTube, all of these other items. Aaron knows how to do all that. And then start building that. Let other teachers know, like, hey, I got this website, you want this material, blah, blah, blah. Give out some free stuff that's not going to kill you, bust the bank. And then if they like it, and then you start giving like, hey, but you can get this, and then you just start charging for these ideas, and then it'll slowly turn in, it'll slowly build. And then as you do that, your brain will start going, what else can I do? What else is there? And then you start realizing, ooh, I'm good at this. I'm actually pretty good at this. I'm really good at this. I didn't know I was good at this, but right now you're being told what you're good at because in the teaching realm, you got to do a job. And so you're told what you're good at. But I think you should take daily steps of like figuring out what you think you are good at. Ask other people too.
Yeah, we're
I feel like they're all liars.
the other people who eat lunch with her every day will tell you that this lady has maybe
Skills.
the most unique skill stack is what people call it, you know? Like she's not the best math teacher. She's good though. She's not the best computer science program teacher, but she's good at that and plays the oboe.
Bassoon.
I always mix it up. Bassoon, and she like quilts, and she does like Sunday school. And it's like there's no one else on earth that is even like average at all of the things that she's really good at. And let's ask the curriculum person in the group, is computer science curriculum a huge area of need across the country and especially in Wyoming?
Hands down. Nobody
Yes.
knows what any of it means.
And she like pretty much started it and got certified and did all the classes through Sheridan College, right, Heather?
Right.
And so like what I realized is you don't have to be the best computer science teacher. You just have to be better than a new one who's like, where do I start? And you go, here's an outline that's free on my website or in my link tree bio, whatever. And then you go, if you want lesson plans and units and stuff that you already have, I was
You
reminded of
sell
this.
those.
Yeah, the day that NCSD posts your job, they will take all your stuff and delete it, and you get nothing.
Right.
And you built all of that, and they either don't use it or give it to your successor who just gets it. Like here's what the last lady did.
Well, and
So
sorry.
I was just gonna say so Heather, if you don't have stuff saved on your own, you need to start doing that. Because what I'm gathering just by this conversation is you have something. I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you see that you have it. Because you
Not
want to
good at reflection.
it's okay. But it's like it seems like you want to be, I want to be really good at it. Man, I'm not the best. I'm confident and I'm good at what I do, but am I the best? I'll probably say I'm the best. But some people may not think I'm the best, and that's okay. I may not be the best, and that's fine, but I'm good at whatever I do. Like I know my gift. My gift is, for example, like I connect well with people. I connect well with students. I just notice that every time I'm around something and do something, I'm connecting with students and with people. And so I'm like, that's my natural gift. that I'm naturally good at. I don't try for it. It's just something that comes to me. But it sounds like you have people that gravitate to your creativity. You have it, because I can't do all those tools and things that you do. That's a natural gift that you have. Explore that. Like, especially in the computer science world, that's actually going here. So you actually have something here. I think it's going to be on you to really like sit and write down these things that you have and start generating materials for computer science teachers. Once you do that, I'm telling you, your mind is just going to open up to a whole new world. You're going to see it differently. You're going to see teaching differently. Once you just say, I'm going to do this. And once you do it, you do it.
And Heather, if I can, if you do enjoy computer science, and if it is something that you're kind of interested in doing, with the teachers that I've worked with across the state of Wyoming, what seems to kind of be the issue is that a lot of people that work in computer science would rather get paid 4 times as much to go, work in the field as opposed to teaching. So the people that teach computer science are like people that are good at computer applications, but because they taught computers, they were kind of thrown into, well, we got to teach computer science too, so now it's your job to figure out what it means. And as you know, I'm positive that like reading those standards is like reading an entirely different language. Like people cannot understand literally what that sentence meant. And so I think if you, I know at least in Wyoming, like the state has tried to kind of give examples of what that what that standard means. But I do think if you could like really develop a curriculum that is truly aligned to the standards, I think it would be huge. Because in the organization that I work in, and I know, sorry if I'm kind of taking over, but I just want to at least give you a little confidence. What we do, we specialize in curriculum development, but we're not content specialists. So even if you, honestly, like you could probably contract with a curriculum development company and say, hey, I am a computer science specialist. Maybe we can tag team and work with, school districts and whatever, because we at least kind of count on the teachers to be sort of experts in their field, or at least understand the subject that they're teaching. But I am certainly not a computer science expert. So I think if that's something that you would enjoy doing after you got out of teaching, or just as a side hustle, I think there's a need for sure for something like that.
Love it.
What
Right,
of
what
all
do we
those
got?
things, Heather, like you have such a crazy list. Like of all those things you could tutor or coach or mentor people in, what one would you be most interested or sounds most exciting or fun?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
I say, Heather, you just kind of just reflect on that. You know what I mean? Like, if you know there's a need, how it's like a principle. Like sometimes it's tough, but the principal impacts the teachers and the teachers impact the students. So you're at the top, being able to trickle that experience down. So I guess you would have to figure out, who do you want to talk to, communicate with? Hey, why don't you connect with, idea would be like, hey, I'm doing a mastermind class for principals. So principals can then help their teachers, but you're impacting the top, and then it goes down to the bottom. So, and then you can charge principals because they just have the school pay for it anyways. So
So
that's
true.
just an idea for you. But we have something here. Now it's just, you got to do the work on how to really get it to flow.
Right.
Right. You got any questions?
Do I? Is that what you said?
Maria,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Maria,
Maria, my
sorry.
bad.
Yes, you're great. No, the first thing I wrote down was, tech required, but I heard, Aaron say stuff about social media and what Emily does and what's marketable. Am I marketable? I have 8 years left in my career if I want to stay in it. My background is deaf education. I taught deaf kids for years. State of Wyoming, we have limited deaf education needs. I went into American Sign Language from special ed, or via special ed. I have a lot of letters behind my name, so I'm sure I can come up with something, but I feel like I'm at the end of my career, but all of this entices me to a certain degree, whether I'm thinking of this in 8 years when I'm done or before I'm done. So I have skills in American Sign Language. I teach that now, college level, high school level. I love deaf education. I love deaf kids, but in Wyoming, we have a lot of non-signing deaf kids, very hard of hearing, do not fit in either world. Educationally, they have all kinds of needs. And in Wyoming, we're so rural, we kind of like shove them away. They're kind of services, versus, for example, I come from a program, I taught deaf kids in the classroom. I taught them through American Sign Language, all the content area. You come here to the state of Wyoming 18 years ago, I moved here, and we service them like a speech pathology. Do you know what I mean? It's a service, it's not a program. So we just have different needs in a rural state.
So the thing that I'm gathering from what you're saying, there's a need for emotional intelligence of understanding how to go about it. Whether there's a need for it 100%, but there's that emotional aspect, and it seems like you have an understanding that emotional component of the programming that you're dealing with, and that can be something to actually look into to help impact the others, right? Like there's that problem. You have the skills, you have the technique, but is it the skills and technique they really need to learn, or is it the emotional competency of understanding how to work with individuals with their disablement and stuff like that? So
that's interesting perspective for sure.
I want to ask the principal on the couch a question, because I think this is a niche for Maria. Principal McKelkey, you get a deaf kid who moves in from Ohio tomorrow. Do you know what the hell you're doing? Or would you need somebody like her that you could call or do a Zoom and say, give me the basic starter kit for I got a deaf kid and I got to provide services and follow ADA and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think when things like that happen, you have two choices. You got to either find a person that you can like contract with or get to come provide services, or you got to at least have somebody you can call and say, what do we do? Because we don't have kids like this, and we don't have a program, we don't have a person. Like, what do we do?
So what would you do if you had a deaf kid come in your school on Monday and get dropped off with an IEP and a disability?
We actually have a special education teacher at our high school that is certified in deaf education and is getting SPED teacher certified, but she's transferring to another building next year. So I would call her and just say, what do we do? And she would have to help somebody else figure out a plan for services. But if we didn't have her, I wouldn't know. Like in my last school district, we had nobody. I would have no idea what to do.
It's so true, because just like you said, you're going to have a SPED person teaching a deaf person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And SPED teachers, they always get the case management, because we don't have the program piece. You always, at least in our district, they put the deaf kids, special ed teachers are their case managers. And then you have a deaf ed person that comes in, like I said, like a speech therapist, back and forth, but that day-to-day work and communication needs, technological needs, FM systems, hearing aids, there's all kinds of stuff. Do they sign? Do they not sign? Unfortunately, in the state of Wyoming, we don't have a lot of signing deaf, which is a lot where their needs are. I'd love to teach parents and kids how to learn sign language, because kids, they grow up and by the time they're 19, they really don't know much. They miss it.
So
the system misses out on what their needs are with language deficit, etc.
As we talk about this, there's actually a big need for you.
Huge.
In a rural state. In a rural state, for sure. Yes.
But that's like Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska, Alaska. That's like millions of people if you have a website or a Zoom account or however you reach them.
Like I feel like you have something big
Yeah.
You just need to piece that you have something very big, because you're not impacting just individuals now you're impacting principals. Like principals they have enough on their plate. Let's
They have
just
no
be
idea.
honest.
Yeah.
And
Not, yeah.
but just an idea.
Sorry.
That sounds exciting. There's some fun stuff you got going on with that one.
It's interesting. I just came across, I was telling Aaron, little things like my principal, not talking about any other principal, but my particular principal doesn't know the needs of the community. And we had a deaf individual ask for an interpreter for a drama, for a play. And, you know, Eric, I'm not sure how you would handle that, or if you would handle that, or how you would even go about it. But I kind of got my hand slapped for trying to figure it out for them, which was kind of crazy. And I'm on a committee at Casper College to hire a new ASL instructor for the program there at Casper College. And there is no understanding that we have 3 candidates that are profoundly deaf and they have no idea how to get an interpreter. So weeks ago, I had to provide them with all the information. You need to have a certified interpreter. It can't just be some Joe Schmo that says, I know American Sign Language, or I know any sign language, because you'll get sued in a heartbeat if you don't take care of it. So there's a lot of need there in terms of educating districts about what they require or need. Like Aaron said, the ADA law is huge.
I think an easy one, all new principals would be oblivious. And then if they didn't have someone in their building or district, a starter kit, like, hey,
Yeah.
you have deaf students and you don't have a deaf ed program. What are the bare minimum things I have to have in place to start? And then if you want more, you can contract me or pay me per hour on Zoom to like consult or something. I don't think, Eric, if you had a deaf community member say, I want an interpreter at the school play or the choir concert, have you ever had that happen? Or would you know what to do?
I've never had it happen, but you have to provide it.
Yes.
You're already ahead of some.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
one of the things that changed with ADA compliance was like public school district websites have to have built-in accommodations for deaf, blind, or there might be another thing where we have to like add tools to our website to make those resources accessible to people with communication disabilities. But I know a lot of school districts still haven't done that until you get
Until it happens.
a parent or a stakeholder, and then it's like, oh, I guess we have to do that. It is the law, but they don't
And
have it.
Eric, this situation is unique because they have hearing children. These are deaf parents with hearing children that attend the school. And it's not just, oh, graduation next year, I need an interpreter. And of course they provide interpreters for graduation. They always have over the years. And so that's no big deal, but it's when they want to attend, this is a public thing. You're offering it to the public. So when a deaf person comes in and said, and it was late. I mean, this particular situation I'm referring to was like the night before opening night. Like it was ridiculous. The deaf person should have known, but some of the things that the school district, or my school particularly, did not even think about. Well, this is an opportunity for us to set up a some process to request an interpreter appropriately. But when you do social media and say, okay, tickets are right now, a week or 2 before opening night, get your ticket. Well, then the deaf people find out about it on social media. And then it's like, oh, I want to go. What night's going to be interpreted? That opened a can of worms in my school system, my school.
And did you save seats in front of where the interpreter is? Because you can't just throw the deaf people in the back of the crowd.
Yes. And I sent an email to the drama teacher to let them know there was a request, and to the person in charge of hiring all the graduation interpreters. And that was my problem, because the drama teacher went crazy and said, hey, I need to and the drama teacher knew more than the principals. I mean, they knew they needed a section. They knew they needed an interpreter to be in a space on the stage or near the stage. They know that they needed it, but tickets had already gone out. But what an opportunity that's missed and failed, where they could, set it up from here on out. We should be setting that up. Some type of request procedure.
I
But
think another one for you is, what about having ASL classes for families outside
I
of
know
the school?
be great.
Hey, we adopted a kid who's deaf, or our
Yeah.
deaf student is learning ASL in school and we don't know anything, and having, yeah, that could even be like a Facebook group, or you don't even have to have a formal website to do most of that. I would think there's a big need. I
Huge.
don't know anything about ASL.
There's a good need for that. There's a good need to educate families. There's a great need currently in our district, Aaron. We have a ton of signing deaf, which is exciting for me, but they're all at CDC level. They're all preschool level, you
Mhm.
know? And
So
so they're coming up, we don't have it currently a lot in middle school and high school that require interpreters. We have a few, but the district will be in trouble when they go across the three levels, the elementary, middle school, and high school levels when they get that point. And the whole idea of having certified interpreters in the school system is a whole nother ballgame, whether they are or aren't. Most of the time you can't find any
Mhm.
that are certified.
This is kind of not exactly piggybacking off of what you're talking about immediately, but something that I've, and thinking actually about, Maria and Heather, kind of your ideas and possibilities about what you could do. Something that I think works really well as you're trying to think about how to package it is thinking about how can you make whatever service or product or whatever it is, how can you break it down into a series of steps? Because I think for a lot of people, seeing a big picture is just overwhelming. So
Mhm.
how can you break it down into step 1, do this, step 2, do this? Because there's also, I think, some psychology that goes into being able to check something off and feeling like you're being successful as you move up. And then there's a lot of marketing opportunities, I think, with that as well. So yeah, so I don't know. I just think whether it's coming up with some sort of a, deaf, you've got a deaf student coming to the school, you don't know what to do. Here's your starter kit. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do this. Step 3, do this. Maybe some sort of a network of ASL interpreters that you have kind of just at your fingertips. So you can say, oh, you live in Evansville, you live in Mills. Hey, this person lives in Mills. Let me send them right over, or whatever. But kind of putting together, kind of just a step-by-step thing, I think is really appealing to people when they're looking for options.
I think you both, Heather and Maria, right?
Yeah.
Maria, apologize.
That's okay.
I really like that idea, Emily. If you do a step by step, and how you just get yourself going is literally do step by step, and you offer that, you give it for free. So like, you give that information to the principal, like, hey, if you have a deaf individual, these are the step by steps. Now, if you want deeper instructions, X, Y, and Z, this is how you contact me, and that's how you just kind of starting your consulting communication about that. Same thing, kind of like for you, Heather, as you say, hey, here's your step by step for understanding computer science. But if you want more information, instruction, lesson, I could probably tell you that you will sell tons of lesson plans or whatever it is, because my wife is an art teacher and she bought something offline about a whole year's worth of art stuff. It takes away thinking. It takes away they can manipulate and change it how they want, but it gives them that base already to do something. And you both have phenomenal ideas. Um, I think where you guys are both maybe at, and I can be wrong, is the mindset of doing it. There's a sense of security that you feel, or you love what you're doing, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but you got to start. If you want to branch out, there's a mind shift that you have to have. Like you just have to have a different switch in your mind, as far as seeing the possibilities of what you can do. Um, excuse me, because there's a sense of comfort. Like I said, comfort is a big one, and I'm still working on overcoming that. That comfort of seeing that check every month. If you get paid twice a month, that feels great. Um, Being able to have the hospital bills taken care of, all of these things. And so I think if you ever want to branch out and try that, if you have a significant other, I think that's a communicational piece that you guys got to have with them. Because what's going to happen is that they're going to have to take a brunt of some of the stuff that you now have, that you're bringing to the table as you branch yourself out of your regular realm of what you do, because you have a certain lifestyle, and that lifestyle that you have will be impacted. If you're trying to do, even it could be a side gig, just to make extra money. But if you're truly trying to step away to make your own decision to have your own life, you and your significant other need to communicate that, and somebody's got to take a brunt of the load after a while. I know that's what happened to my wife and I. I guess if we were going to go off of breadwinners, I was the only one working, actually, for years. It wasn't until my wife got the art teaching job that it was a significant pay cut, and so there was a lot of panic that came about. Like, what am I going to do? How are we going to do this? But I got to a point in my personal life where I was like, I kept waking up unhappy. Even when I was a teacher, I don't know why, I just kept waking up unhappy. I just was not happy with how things were within my life, because I felt like I was whether I was restricted or whether my thought process was off compared to everybody else. I always felt like it just wasn't for me. And so when we had that conversation, we got that plan set, like, hey, this is what the plan is, and this is what the vision is. This is where we're going to go. This is what we're going to do. And I know when I said I took out my savings, it was scary, but at the same time, it's really not as scary as one would think, because you're investing into yourself. And what happens if the stock market goes down, if it crashes or anything like that? You lose that money either way, and you can't die with that money. And then I can go on a whole rant about that. Like, if you really truly look at it, like really look at your retirement, really look at this, you are only going to be living off of what, 35, 45% of whatever you were making in the first place. That's why a lot of people end up going back to work either way, because of inflation. So it's not matching inflation. And so you're stressed about it. Cool. If that's what you want, that's what you want. Or do something bigger, not for you, but for your kids. Like, show your kids to think differently, be freely, show them how to create something and struggle with it, and then go from there. And I'm just speaking again for myself, because as I know it's scary. It's big time scary. But, Emily, is there something that you and Eric can talk about? Like, hey, I want a food truck, but this is what we're going to pull, or whatever, that's just something that has to be worked about. You and your spouse has to communicate that. But you're going to have to take some leap somewhere, one or the other. You can't, if you play the fence and stay safe, you're going to get what you're going to get. But you gotta, it's a shift, and bet on yourself. I think everybody heard Deion Sanders. I bet on myself. So bet on yourself. Don't be afraid to bet on you. And if you can bet on you, you're going to figure out a solution to all these problems. It won't be great right away, but if your spouse can say, hey, I got you, I'm going to support you, it makes things so much easier for your growth, your mindset, and your ability. Just because, like, to talk about income wise, and this is crazy for me, like it's gotten better every year that I've done. I've only been doing it strong for 2 years. And I would say almost doubling what I made the first year, double to almost tripling what I made the first year, because I'm figuring out solutions to problems to create more at the end of the day. And then if your product is good, they come to you. And so from there's another brainwave that I have as far as now investing. I want to invest. I don't want to just put my money in a 401k and things like that. I want to invest. Now you invest into whatever that may be. I want to invest into real estate. Now you have income coming from the real estate side of the equation, plus tax write-offs, plus a whole bunch of other things that you can get benefits from, plus my other business that I'm doing here. And so I have 2 businesses, LLCs, and things like that. So there's a lot of ways to create the income that you're looking for, or create the lifestyle that you want. Like, if you feel trapped, you have a choice to change it or continue to feel and be trapped. But if you know somewhere in your gut and your heart that there's something there, I think you got to just do it. Like again, Emily, just cook out of the kitchen at home, give a plate on a Sunday or a Saturday, and just continue to grow that. The money you then make from there, you do buy your food truck and you just invest back into your business. Sooner or later, it'll grow if you see that it's a need for it. Then if you want to learn how to do it inside, do you need a restaurant or can you just rent a place to make that income? Get a food truck, summertime, boom, you can just have a whole bunch of people outside creating an atmosphere that you truly want. But it takes a party to make this work, to figure it out. And again, it's a mental shift, and books that you should read. Here's one book that really changed my thought process huge. And I don't know, everybody's probably heard it, but Rich Dad Poor Dad. Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you haven't heard it, read it, listen to it, do it. That will really open up your brain to a different thought process. That will change your mind a lot. And then you'll start seeing what your possibilities are for yourself, not what other people are completely telling you what to do. I've never read that one. Is that legit?
This one's really good because it's simple, and I think it's perfect for teachers because it's like you already know stuff other people want to know. How can you make money off of it? Yeah. Get paid. How to get paid for what you know by Graham Cochran. He has a website and a bunch of stuff. Yeah. And so before we like talk about what's next, I think a good practice at the end is to just go through and say what's been most valuable, like whether this answered a question or just now I'm thinking about 10 things I wasn't thinking of when I came in, or I feel more encouraged because I know Emily's kind of a marketing person and Coach Lane's kind of the business guy and I can help with the tech. What's something valuable from this? And I think Heather should go first.
Thanks for nominating me to go first. Means a lot coming from you. And so I think just and it's going to sound stupid because I know you've told me 4,000 times roughly, but just reiterating that I have something that is valuable that I can choose to make a change. The idea that like I can't, Emily, you said sometimes looking at the big picture is overwhelming, to a high degree, right? When you are the insurance and the mortgage and the food, I can't think about, I'm going to put it all out on, I'm going to risk it all. I've got 3 kids at home too, right? That's not responsible. But correct. I could do small things. I could develop an outline. I could work on translating computer science state standards into something that would be more usable for a non-computer science trained person. So just thinking about those small steps, things that I could do right now with the safety of my crutchy teaching correct. Job. So,
and that's a big step. Like, I understand. I make it sound simple, but literally it took me, I was a teacher for 10 years. I taught for 10 years. I mean, heck, Eric helped me with my master's in leadership. Now I realized like, damn, this shit is terrible. But anyways, but it took me years. I'm talking about years. This is not an overnight thing. Like it took me, I taught for 10 years. After I taught for 10 years, I worked in the corporate world in a cubicle, terrible thing. I did that for about 4 years. So we're looking at 14 years roughly for me to truly say, this is it. I can't do this no more. I just can't. So it took me it's not like it took me a long time to finally just say, here we go. Like when I moved to Pipestone, I felt like it was my second chance to do that. Because I had a choice. Either I was going to come back to Pipestone and get a job, work every day and not be happy, or take what I know, use that knowledge and give it to the community and see where it rolls out. but I also had other things in place before I just leaped. Let me just say that. So if you are the one that's kind of like the breadwinner, what are those little things that you can replace? Look into, well, if I stop working, what kind of how does insurance now look? And then if I stop working, you know, like just little pieces of where you can, whatever your life is at, where can you get it? And then build the little platforms to get your name out, then start making some, then, you know, dive into it. But it took me years. It's not like it took me years to finally say, screw it. Here we go.
I want to
Okay.
hear Maria's most valuable insight or takeaway.
I like the what Emily mentioned about creating a plan and series of steps. So that had me thinking of categorizing, you know. Yeah, I am a deaf educator, but I also went into special education for a long time, and deafness has so many American Sign Language has so many avenues, you know, whether a parent advocate or educational resources for school districts or parents. There's just so many avenues, whether you educate them in general or I'm just thinking. So my mind's just going in little bubbles right now, which areas I'd be more beneficial. And I know, like I said, we're in a rural state. If I went to a bigger area, it'd be a different story, but where my needs are. So I'm just thinking that's where my head's going in a bunch of different directions. And I'm an old bird. So I've been in education almost 30 years. And so it's interesting, you know, where I can be used and where I can't be used. You know what I'm saying? So confidence at the end, towards the end of my career, or, you know, an extension of my career. I like the idea of a side gig. Anyway, so I'm thinking of all that. It's going all in my head.
I think the rural state is an advantage.
It
And
is.
And
It is.
the thing I've been trying to lean on my dad, he's a principal. I think everybody in here probably knows that, who's hopefully going to retire next year. And here's what he says. Well, when I'm out, then I'll figure out what I do. And I'm like, no, you need to start now. A, to
Yeah.
just figure some of this out, but then B, to like build it up a little bit. You don't want to wait till you're totally retired to start the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And kind of thinking about that, Aaron, I was actually, when Maria was talking about, you know, the sign language or deaf education or whatever, I think, so here's another, this is one of my nonprofit ideas, is to like sort of develop some sort of a, I don't know what it would be called really, but some sort of a network or coaching or something for like or anybody that's retired to help them figure out what's their purpose. So what I hear from everybody that is retiring or has retired, you know, they say like, I feel like I don't have a purpose anymore. What's my purpose? And so Maria, I feel like that's something
Yeah.
that like,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
a
good one.
passion of yours. And there's a huge purpose that could like really fulfill you, knowing that you're still making a
Yeah.
difference in the world, you know?
Yeah.
There we go. That's good
Um,
stuff.
It
That's
is good stuff. That's an excellent opportunity or thought in my head. Cause I don't know that when I'm ready to retire, I'm not a sit at home person. I can't
Right.
sit, you know, I'm a stander all day long and I run around and, you know, like I said, I have colleagues that are ready to retire. And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? Our minds, think about what we do every single day, every second, troubleshoot, figure out things on the computer with kids, parents, colleagues, everything, you know? So I'm thinking, what are you going to do to, you know, keep your mind good? I mean, I'm not that old where my mind's terrible, but I don't want to let it go either. You know what I
Keep
mean?
I mean, that's a
taking
good
your
idea, though.
magnesium.
Shut up, Aaron McKelvey. He always tells me, how much magnesium have you had, or did you forget it today, Maria?
Eric, let's hear your takeaway.
I think the biggest thing is sometimes it's good to hear other people's ideas and strengths, because being an educator, it's pretty common to feel stuck. Like, this is what we do, this is the job, and this is my career, and it'd be stupid to leave, it'd be irresponsible to leave. But I have friends, like one friend in particular, that just said, screw it, I'm done, and left the principalship. And hasn't looked back, and it's definitely doable, but I think it's more responsible to think about it in a way of start small financially and time and energy wise, and then see what you can do to build it up. And maybe it's something that you don't ever want to do full time, or you don't want to do make it a priority until you retire. It doesn't mean you have to leave education. There's still a lot of good things about being in this career. Probably the most basic is just the steady income and insurance and retirement. But yeah, it's good to see like everybody has something they could bring to the table. A lot of different skills in the group today, but they're all things that are in need
Well,
and
and
people pay for and benefit from.
what does Rocky pay you to go basically mentor rookies versus are there other people out there that would pay for an experienced principal's perspective or mentoring?
Yeah, that was something I'd never thought about because that's kind of my side gig. And when I was at the UW teacher fair last weekend, a superintendent came up to me and he's like, "Hey, I have a teacher that wants to do their principal program, but I want to get him a mentor. Can I pay you to do it?" And I've never thought about like, I don't have to do it through the university. I could do that
On
for
your own.
anybody
I
who
mean, you
wanted
can
to.
you could. I mean, you can do mastermind kind of class like this and say, hey, once a month we're all going to get together with my mentorships and let's talk about it, collaborate, figure out, like Emily said, break it up in pieces, in steps. But you mentioned something that kind of made me think. One of the other reasons that was hard for me to stop teaching and all of that is the feeling of letting down people, letting down kids, parents, and you name it. This is what I realized. The people that care about you are going to still be there. They're going to figure out a way to stay in touch with you. Other than that, they're going to keep on the trucking. They're going to keep moving. Life is not going to stop. And so if you are holding yourself back because you feel like you're going to let people down or anything like that, you're only holding yourself back because they're going to keep moving. They will replace you a week or 2 weeks later. Like, you're holding a spot. Don't think that, and it sounds terrible. It sounds really negative, but if a teacher quit the next day, you got to replace that spot. You know what I mean? So don't stop your life in wanting to be who you want to be because you feel like you're letting people down. You're really not. And the truth is, you can actually impact way more people when you step into what you really want to do. I mean, way more people. You engage with way more people. You talk to way more people. Like, I thought my training business, I was going to be limited because I thought I was only going to be able to work with a small group, but I can work with kids year round now. Parents, I can see the growth. Like, it's just, I have more tentacles to reach more people with my business. And it's still the same thing I would just be doing as a high school coach that makes $3,000 or $3,500.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So like, money perspective wise, like, we do it because we want to help, impact, reach, touch, and we just want to change their life. And so we do all that for $3,500. But be honest with y'all, I just made $3,500 in like last month. And I haven't, this is just getting ready for my summer programs. So what I'm saying is you can impact way more than you think and get paid for what you know. Yeah, brought the book back here.
Yep. And don't ask Heather what she gets paid for her club sponsorships, especially when you split an activity stipend because activities are less than athletics.
She probably gets like 700 or less, 500.
I said, don't ask. Because
You
I
don't
Now
have
that
asked.
you
to
brought
already-
it up, now everybody wants to know. So you get
Well-
$500 for a semester.
Yeah.
So I was telling Brian today, I was like, so if I meet once a week for 18 weeks, divide my $500. Oh, but 2 of my clubs are actually co-sponsored, so make that $250. It was like, that's way less than my hourly rate of pay, my friends.
So no, for real, like that. I'm glad you are going through that. You can make triple that and
Right.
still do the same thing. Like, I know that feeling, and I didn't realize the big impact that you had. Like, example would be some of the coaches at the school, local school, they do their weight room from like whatever, June all the way through August. They make about an extra $3,000. One would be like, oh, $3,000. That's big bucks. That's summer bucks. Again, I will repeat, I can make that
With
in
less hours, correct?
less hours, more
Yeah.
control of my time.
Yes.
That's the biggest one, is I just have more control of my time. I can decide when and when I don't, but I also get to impact more kids, because now I have kids coming from different communities to me. And so, yeah. That I guess if that stipend is worth it, but you saying 215, that's not counting taxes. So it's only about like 200, 190 something, 180 something that you're putting in stress weeks on weeks on end to make these kids better. That sometimes you're like, why am I doing this? Because they can give a crap less. Not all, but some. So, anyways, you can do what you're doing and actually impact and make more. Sorry, went on a rant.
No, and then if you have an LLC, every trip you write off the gas. You can write off the laptop. Like that's the biggest thing. You don't even have to make money to write that off. And we'll talk more about that later. So, I'm gonna screen share here. Okay. So a couple of us have been in masterminds and a couple of us haven't. And there's none of them have like, they all have to have these components. But what I did is just on my website, I made a little community, which most of you are in here, I think. And so I didn't care if one person joined or whatever. I made it 25 seats was the most. And I'm sure we'll have more next week. But there's a little challenge in there. And so if you go to aaronmckelkey.com, you should be able to log in now. And if you have issues with like how do I get there, where is that, just text me or call me or whatever. And there's some little like discussion areas, which is if you want to do that, cool. I put something there if you want to see it. But the challenge is what I've learned and what I tell my kids every day is knowledge is almost ubiquitous. Like if you want to learn about marketing, Emily can give you a book that's free on Spotify or at the library, but 99% of people won't read it. And of the people who do, they won't do it. And so the biggest thing I've learned and my motto lately has been I'm just biased towards action. Like I'm not going to read a second book. I'm going to read the one book and then go do it. And like I made this little mastermind group in a week because one of Eric's mentors actually told me, he's like, dude, just go make one, just go do it. I was like, I don't know how to do that. And he's like, just go figure it out. And man, as teachers, a lot of us struggle with that. So I was like, all right, I just got to go do the work. But the idea is if you go in here and there's a challenge and it's just like step 1, step 2, step 3. So I love that you guys are all talking checklists. My brain is the same. I like flow charts. This thing, okay, now that thing. Okay, now this thing. And you can do one a day, whatever. So like the challenge, if you want to do it, is in here. You're going to brainstorm on a piece of paper or a Google Doc, whatever you want, 10 skills that you have. Even if you think they're stupid, here's one that my wife told me. She's like, when people get a new iPhone, they don't know how to set it up and use the features. And people would pay you on Zoom to screen share and be like, here's how you put your email on there, and here's how you do focus modes and change your background, because they don't know and they don't go look. They're just, so it can be something stupid like melody, just the number of instruments and musical things that you do. Those are all skills. So list them out and then go, what are the last 5 things that someone else asked me to help with? So like for Maria, she always gets asked, how do I do this in Infinite Campus? So our SIS at school, she is like the SIS lady. You just go to her, hey, how do I weight my categories? How do I post this? So even if you don't think, oh, I'd make money, it's just like, what are the last 5 things someone asked you to do? And then what are 5 ways you could combine those two of the skills you have and the things you're asked for? And then go, okay, should I set up an LLC or not? And you don't have to. And teachers are all like, I don't know anything about business. I didn't either. But it cost me $150 and took 5 minutes. And I did it online. And the biggest reason I did it is I have a vendetta against the IRS because I got my return last year got stolen by hackers. And then the year before that, we had a screw up with paperwork for my financial advisor, and they charged me interest on some unpaid taxes. And then there was a class action lawsuit against the IRS. It's like crazy stuff. And so I was like, I'm on a mission to pay as few taxes as I can legally. And everybody's like, well, you need an LLC. I was like, but I'm a teacher. Well, just go make one or ask John or I. Like Emily's a business person who taught business classes. She could help with that. But like it costs $125 to file it with the state. And it took maybe an hour, like even if you're a rookie. Then you go, okay, for what I was going to do, would I need a website or not? Like all the rural stuff, if you don't have a website, you can't reach them. And it's not hard at all. But then the con is like you got to have a little bit of tech skills and a little bit of money. Like you got to buy a website. That's easy. Most of mine I bought cost $10. And then you want to put a web page on there. Emily's done that a couple times. John does that. I do that. Cheap is like $20, but most of them are going to be like $100 a month. And then think like, what could you name it? And you can go look. I have a checklist with the state. Does someone already have that LLC name? And you can go look, does someone already have that website? And so all this is just brainstorming. But you can post in here, like copy your Google Doc or take a picture of your piece of paper and submit it. And then a cool thing on here is like someone's going to be first. And then by next Sunday at 2 p.m., it's due. And then you can do like little awards. And so the award for this one is I have a super easy way to start a business, calendar appointments. And so like you can just go in here and say, hey, I want to meet with you. Like Emily in the business world probably does this a dozen times a week. This person's calendar, pick a link, whatever. And so I made a 4-week side hustle coaching thing. And whoever does the best job on this by next Sunday, you just get a link to my calendar and you pick, and it's like, boom, we can talk for free on like whatever you need help. And if I don't know the answer, I probably don't. I'll know someone who knows the answer. And so that's just kind of like the little incentive with the website to do this challenge. So like I'm going to put mine, and I took a bunch of notes. I got like 3 pages of notes on here that I'll upload. But there's a spot you can go in here and you can post like, did you buy a domain? Did you decide I'm finally going to do something, whatever, called post your wins. And then there's a Q&A section. So I know one that a lot of people are going to have is, should I use an LLC for my side hustle? I have a little starter guide that's a checklist. Like literally check these boxes. If I want to form an LLC, here's the steps. I know these steps because I didn't have a list and I just did it over Christmas break and I did it wrong and I screwed stuff up. So I was like, okay, I know very little about business, but if Heather came to me and said, how could I start an LLC? I'm 1 or 2 steps ahead of her. Okay, then I can help. Like, I'm definitely not the best at any of this. So I put that there, and then it's like, if somebody else has a comment on that, here's how we could help or who you could ask, go ahead. And then once you figure out like what are your side hustles going to be, there's a little section you can post in there too. If you want to do this stuff on your phone, this all used to be under a program called Vibely, but Kajabi bought it. So there's an app in the App Store called Kajabi Communities, and you can log in with your aaronmckelkey.com stuff, and it puts all this mastermind group on your phone if you'd rather do it that way instead of going to aaronmckelkey.com in your browser. And if you need help, just ask, but it's called Kajabi Communities. And then next Sunday, we're going to have an awesome guest, and I think Eric probably knows her better than anybody. Kathy Holman. She was a teacher a couple years, and she got out, and her and I were talking a couple weeks ago, and she was like, man, I would never go back to teaching. I have such a cool job. I do my own thing. She does a lot of different things under a brand, and she's going to come on next Sunday and talk about what she did and just let you guys do Q&As. But she's like a leadership person. She's an MC. She's a brand. She does a lot of like female business person empowerment stuff. She does like cooking and lifestyle. And she said, like, it's just awesome. And she has a lot of people come to her with help on social media, which I know I've asked her some questions, and I know people around town that have businesses and they're like, I don't know how to use Instagram. How can I help her figure that out? And that's one thing that she does. So she's going to be awesome, and we'll record it if you miss. But if you guys have questions, you can go in and post them in here or text me. And if there's somebody who missed because they're at the movies or whatever, just tell them, it's a good place to come talk about ideas. We're not all saying we hate teaching and we're going to quit and our bosses are bad. It's just like, what could I do on the side? What's something fun? And my biggest takeaway I want to share, and then I'll shut up, is it's actually made my day job more fun to have a side hustle. I've been having more fun teaching the last 3 months since I got fired from football, and felt like John said, like I got pushed out of a thing. And he's like, dude, I've been telling you, you need to start your own thing. I was like, okay, well, I can't, like Maria said, I can't just sit on the couch and do nothing. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to watch Netflix. And it's made my day job way more fun. And not because of TikTok and the podcast and all the weird stuff, just like I also feel like I have a bridge now, because here's the test for all the educators, which would be Eric, Heather, Maria, and myself. Look at your retirement date and look at the current state of affairs that you're going to walk into tomorrow at work. How does that make you feel? And that's your answer. Because mine is February of 2042. And I love teaching. I love a lot of parts of my job, but I look at that on a calendar and go, hold on, I got to do this for 18 more years and it's only going to get crazier. I don't know that I can do that. And I don't think that makes me a bad person or that I don't love kids. Like, I've got to work with some kids who are just elite and they're like, I want to learn what you can teach. And they actually do it. And I'm like, whoa, that's not how my normal class goes. And another cool benefit, like Heather, you need some of this in your life. It's really powerful to pick who you work with, and you can tell people no. Like, I had a guy that wanted me to work with him and I did some stuff and then he wanted more. And I was like, if you hire me, I'll charge you $500 and you got a week to lock this down because I'm getting busy. He didn't take it. Well, then the next week after that expired, he's like, hey man, I really need your help. And I just looked at him, I said, now it's 1,000. And if you don't hire me, I don't care. I have so many other things to do. I'm just being nice to help you. And you kind of feel like a badass. Like, I don't need to help that guy because I already gave him an opportunity. And in teaching, we don't get that. It's like, here's your curriculum, here's your classroom, here's your students. My big one lately, you don't get to teach that class that you love. And I'm like, why do I let someone else pick that for me? I can't change that within the school system, but I can change it outside with my business. So it's been really good for my mental health. And Maria, when you're talking about all the ideas going through your head, now you know that, like, you pulled me aside the other day and said, you just have a lot going on. I was like, yeah, because I'm thinking about what else could I do? And I don't know the answer, but I got to find something. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. And I'm going to pause the recording. And then if you guys have any questions or want something else before we sign off, now is the time.